gentlemen have been with us through thick and thin, and every time we've needed them to come out to help us raise money or whatever it is, just to honor our 100, they've done it. So thank you guys today in this cold weather. Together. You know, we've got some, noticing some firefighters standing in the back, the West Wall firefighters, and you guys, you mean the world to me and to all of my friends and all of these families, so thank you for coming up to represent me today. Thank you.
Feels like forever. Within my heart a memory, a perfect love that you gave to me. Oh, I remember, 'cause when you are with me, I'm free, I'm careless, I believe. This brings tears to my eyes, my sacrifice. We've seen our share of ups and downs. Oh, how quickly life can turn around. In an instant, it feels so good to reunite within yourself and within your mind. Let's find peace there, 'cause when you are with me, I'm free, I'm careless, I believe. This brings tears to my eyes, my sacrifice. I just want to say hello again. I just want to say hello again. When you are with me, I'm free, I'm careless, I believe. Above all the others will fly, and this brings tears to my eyes. 'Cause when you are with me, I'm free, I'm careless, I believe. Above all the others will fly, and this brings tears eyes, my sacrifice. I just want to say hello again. I just want to say hello again. My sacrifice.
Jerry and Mike. You guys have had my heart for a lot of years. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. So, a moment a lot of you have been waiting for. My co-worker, Jess Garvey, is going to come up and we're going to talk about the memorial, our Station Fire Memorial Park. Tom Viall, if you're around, and Alan Ahlstrom, if you're here, why don't you guys come on up? I am honored and proud to be working with all of these guys, and they're going to tell you about our new path.
I remember one of the first times I stood on this property. It was the Sunday after the fire, and I was part of the caravan that was bussed over from the Crown Plaza. We were given roses to take with us, along with our own mementos and remembrances. As we walked off the bus, a chain-link fence was the only barrier between us and the burned-out remains of the station. I walked over to the makeshift memorial that was beginning to build and placed a framed photo of my sister, Dina Tomea, with her name and date of birth, February 20th, 1973. Underneath her birthday were the words, "We have not given up hope." At that time, my sister was still among the missing, and though my mother and family still held on to hope, those words felt empty to me. After placing her picture, I walked over to the fence and joined my younger sister, Christy. We threw our roses over the fence like many others had done. I cried quite a few tears in that moment. Those tears were not just for my sister, but for all those that had died there. After our visit, the fence was moved and you could no longer gain entrance into the property. The memorial items that had been left that Sunday were left behind the fence. As each day passed and the list of the missing became the list of those that died, more and more people visited the site. They left cards and photos, drawings and poems. They shared their happy memories or their stories of grief. This memorial would cover the entire fence that ran the perimeter of this property, while candles and flowers littered the ground. As the time came for the site to be cleared of all remaining debris, the memorial that showcased the loss felt by the entire state was buried beneath the ground where the building once stood. A cold, empty dirt lot remained, but yet another memorial began quickly to form. Survivors of the fire placed 100 crosses in the ground. These crosses, built from leftover flooring from the building, were laid out in a circle where the building once stood. Families came and wrote their loved one's name on a cross. Then there were solar lights and candles, then pictures, flowers, and other mementos. Survivors of this tragedy and the friends and family members of the 100 were determined to make sure that our 100 angels would not be forgotten. Our individual memorials have changed and grown. Flowers and trees have been planted, and with each returning spring, there is mowing, weeding, and pruning to be done. As each year has passed, we have done all that we could as we waited for the day where a permanent and lasting memorial would replace the weathered temporary one we have worked so hard to maintain. So here we stand, 10 years later, and there is a new feeling within us. We no longer have to look among the crosses buried in the snow and wonder if a permanent memorial is possible. This property now belongs to us, the survivors and the families of our 100 angels. And this year, as winter fades away, spring will bring us a new beginning. The process of constructing a permanent memorial will finally begin. It has been an amazing honor to work with all of you for these last 10 years as a board member of the Station Fire Memorial Foundation. When I joined the board in 2003, this day seemed like it would never come. And many times I thought it would never be. But I stand before you today and can say that our dream will be a reality. Today, we take the first steps towards that reality. With great honor and true privilege, I can now present to you the final design for the Station Fire Memorial Park.
My name is Tom Viall, and I'm part of the team that designed the permanent memorial. I'm joined by architect Steve Greenleaf and landscape architect Alan Ahlstrom from the briefly walking through the design. 5 years ago, Steve and I had the honor of our design being selected by the board. Those familiar with that plan will note that our updated design includes many of the same features as the original, as well as many improvements. Visitors will enter the site from a 20-car parking area with access off Lewis Road. And the signature element of the park will be an entrance gate that will stand nearly 30 feet tall. At the top of the gate will be an Aeolian wind harp. As the wind passes through the gate, the harp strings will resonate, creating a musical soundtrack for the site, reminding us of how music was one of the main forces that originally brought people to this spot. After passing under the gate, visitors can choose a direct path through a central walkway or take either a right or a left onto winding paths that lead through a dozen memorial gardens. The walkways will be paved with thousands of commemorative bricks that will be available for purchase from the board to help support the cost of construction and ongoing maintenance. At the center of the site will be a gathering court, approximately 34 feet in diameter, and we very much look forward to a day in the future when all of us can stand together in that area to celebrate the official opening of the permanent memorial. To match the natural upward slope of the site, there will be 8 steps along the central walkway. Each step will be dedicated to a group that played an important role in the tragedy and contain a quote carved into the step representing that unique group. On either side of the central walkway are memorial gardens. There are 12 circular areas, each with a bench in the center. Individual monuments for the 100 victims will be grouped along the circumference of each garden. Visitors may recognize the general shape of these monuments that, like many of the park features, reflect their love of music that was shared by so many of the victims. As the pathways converge at the memorial shelter, the pathways will converge at the memorial shelter. An open-air pavilion will sit at the highest natural point of the site. A wraparound porch will overlook the gathering court. 2 ramps will lead up from either walkway, ensuring full accessibility. Large stone columns with integrated benches will support a series of ornate trusses. The roof will be fabricated from translucent panels, allowing natural light to filter through the interior of the shelter during the day and will be illuminated from below at night. There will be a full rear wall at the back of the shelter that can be used to showcase either a permanent history or a series of revolving displays telling the story of the aftermath of February 20th, 2003. Great care has been taken to ensure that memorial is fully ADA compliant and accessible to all visitors. The stone angel carving and book commemorating the names of the victims that have been previously donated will both have a permanent and prominent location within the site. And additionally, a weeping cherry tree, planted soon after the fire, will be carefully transplanted to thrive in a new location on the park grounds. There are many more subtle details purposely incorporated into the plan that visitors may discover over time. These elements are designed to capture the true spirit of so many of the victims and friends who gather together to share their love of music and fullness of life. One of the biggest design changes from our original 2008 submission is much more subtle, but maybe the most significant. When Steve Greenleaf and I started our work 5 years ago, we were a team of 2. Having the opportunity over the past few months to revisit, adapt, and ultimately improve upon our original plan has afforded us the opportunity to extend this effort beyond ourselves. Back in October, we asked landscape architect Alan Ahlstrom for some of his input, and within a few hours we were able to recruit him, others might say abduct him, onto the design team, and his contributions have been invaluable. Working together, we've been able to solicit the assistance and guidance of dozens of professionals who have assisted us in the design process, and all of them have freely and enthusiastically donated their valuable time. We understand that constructing something of this scale will require the efforts of dozens, if not hundreds, of individuals. While that will indeed be a challenge, the last few months have been a very powerful indicator of the willingness of people to volunteer their time and expertise in realizing our shared dream of constructing a permanent memorial. And speaking of dreams, Steve, Alan, and I are deeply appreciative of the support of the board. They have offered us incredible guidance, feedback, and encouragement over the past few years. Since submitting our original design in 2008, we have been asked many times when we thought the memorial would get built, and sometimes if we thought it would ever be built. I am sure many of you have been asked the same questions. Until a few months ago, we were never really sure of the answer of when. But our answer to it has always been absolutely. That is because we know the kind of people behind the Station 5 Memorial Foundation. These are people who do not give up. These are people who do not lose hope. These are people who will build this permanent memorial on the site, and we are very honored to be part of it.
I was asked to join the design team this past fall. Steve and Tom and I met and walked along the Providence River Walk to talk about the origins, inspirations, and details of the first design. They talked to me about the impact of this tragedy has made, and how the news traveled like waves across the state and beyond. They described it like ripples spreading out across the water. Their analogy reminded me of a poem given to me to recite in an acting class back in college, not too long after my own brother had died in a tragedy. On that cool winter's afternoon, I shared with them the poem, which became part of our inspiration. Though written about a friend lost in the First World War, the sentiments are still relevant to what occurred on this site 10 years ago this week. Today I want to share that poem by the Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Robert Hilliard. A memory. Skipping flat pebbles over a dark pond. One of yours flipped 9 times before it sank. We watched the ripples spread round after round until the circles broke against the bank. We played until the sunset, and the dank mist, heavy with spicy smell of fern, rose from the reeds and warned us to return. Of lives that intersect, then go their way, at last to lose themselves, alone against the shores of silence. Our brief hours of play seem now the symbol, the bright memory, fenced with deep, oblivious forests and condensed into one flash, one fragmentary scene that skips the surface of the years between. You had a decade left that afternoon before you were to die in the First War, but deep within me, like a sealed cocoon, the memory clung for 50 years or more, to open for one sudden flight and soar. into the moments lost in time beyond, two small boys skipping pebbles over a pond. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are very fortunate and very blessed to have them on our side. We also are very fortunate to have Gilbane Construction, the local laborers union, all waiting and ready to help build our memorial. And hopefully, come spring, we can somewhat begin the process. So thank you, gentlemen, for everything. I do need my friends up here that are going to read in honor of 100 Angels' names. Apologize. Sorry about that. Reverend Donald Anderson, you have graciously said you would say a few words.
And I promise they will be a few words, because I know we're all cold. But I also know that every person who is here today is here because we feel what happened here 10 years ago. And every one of us in some way or other was part of this. And I never drive by this property. I never stop here and look at these crosses without first thinking about the 100 souls who lost their lives that day. And then those of you who are here today who bear the physical scars of what happened in that fire. And my guess is that every person who is here shares in the emotional scars and suffers from what happened on that day. And when we come to this memorial, and Gina, I want you to come to the faith community and I want you to ask us to help you raise money for this memorial, because those of us who performed some of the services for folks who died here want to be part of that. And we want to be part of that in a big way. I'm good, I hope you do. But here's the thing. When we come, we will remember the 100 because we can never forget them. And we'll remember everyone who suffers because of this. But there is one other number that comes to my mind. And it is the number 1. Because 10 years ago today, we were not Democrats and Republicans. We were not Christians and Jews and Muslims and atheists. We didn't come from South County or Woonsocket or Aquidneck Island. We were one. We were Rhode Island. And I hope that as you come to this memorial, that in spite of whatever other people may want to say about us to try and divide us, that we will remember that we are 1 million people who live here in this place under God to be together and to struggle together and to figure out the best way to live. And I just pray God's blessing upon this memorial as it goes forward and for each of you or families. Let me read a brief prayer and I'm done. God of grace and mercy, we call you many different names and know you in different ways. But we come as a community this day, one community. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you that you are in the midst of the sorrow and pain and that you bring healing. Thank you that in our weakness you bring strength, that in our loneliness you bring comfort, and even in our anger, you are a patient presence. Even after 10 years, the sense of loss is ever present. Coming together today reminds us of that loss, but we have not come together alone. We are joined by others who share our loss and pain. And in this community, give us a sense of strength and camaraderie. We are aunts and uncles, grandparents, moms and dads, spouses and lovers, daughters and sons, friends and neighbors, and even some of us today are strangers. But we've come here today because we could be nowhere else. Now, as we begin to remember specifically the names of those 100, may we sense your presence with us. And as we come from many circumstances and places unique to each one of us, be present with us and each one of us in our own unique way. And so we commit our loss, our pain, our sorrow, our questions, and even our anger to your care in the strong belief that you will be with us, even in more powerful ways in the years ahead. Amen. God bless you all.
I'm going to begin to read the 100 names.
Louis S. Alves, Kate Anderson, Stacy Engers, Christopher Aruda, Eugene Alves, Tina Ayer, Carla Bagtes, Mary H. Baker, Thomas Barnett, Marie Duchesne.
William Christopher Bernardi III, Kristen Carbone, Richard A. Cabral Jr., William W. Cartwright, Edward D. Corbett III, Michael Cordier, Alfred Carmino Chrysostom, Robert Croton, Lisa DeAndre.
Matthew P. Darby, Albert A. de Bonaventura, Christina DiRienzo, Kevin J. Dunn, Lori K. Durante, Edward Everett Urbanian, Thomas Fleming, Rachel K. Florio DePietro, Mark A. Fontaine, and my sister Dina Ann DeMeo.
Daniel Fredrickson, Mark Freslow, James Gahan, Melvin Gerfin Jr., Laura Gillette, Charlene Gingras Fisk, Michael J. Gonzalez, James F. Gooden Jr., Derek Gray, Pamela Gudidaria.
Scott C. Green, Scott Griffith, Bonnie Lynn Hamlin, Jude Hinault, Andrew Hoban, Abby L. Hoisington, Michael Hugazian, Sandy Hugazian, Carlton Bud Howard III, Eric J. Heyer.
Derek Brian Johnson, Lisa Kelly, my larger-than-life baby brother, Tracy F. King, Michael Joseph Cults, Keith LaPierre, Dale L. Guadalupe, Stephen M. Levin, John M. Longeroux, and Ty Longley.
Andrea Mancini, her husband Stephen Mancini, Stephen's cousin Keith Mancini, Judith Manzo, Thomas Marion Jr., Jeffrey W. Martin, Tammy Tara Closet, Kristen McCory, Thomas Medeiros, Samuel J. Zelli Jr.
Donna M. Mitchell, my sister Lee Ann Moreau, Ryan M. Morin, Jason Morton, Beth Ellen Mazinski, Catherine O'Donnell, Nicholas O'Neill, Matthew James Pickett, Carlos L. Pimentel Sr., Christopher Prouty.
Jeffrey Rader, Teresa Rakowski, Robert L. Reisner III, Walter Rich, Donald Rodriguez, Teresa Romanoff, Joseph Rossi, my niece Bridget Marie Sinetti, Rebecca Becky Shaw, Mitchell Schubert,
Dennis Smith, Victor Stark, Benjamin J. Soffoletto Jr., Linda Soffoletto, Sean Patrick Sweet, Jason Sylvester, Sarah Jane Kazgarski, Kelly Vieira, Kevin Washburn, Everin Tommy Woodmansey III, and Robert Young. Thank you, everyone. Now offer up 100 seconds of silence, and they need to knock it off. 100 seconds of silence. I'd like to welcome our friends here in a band called Beyond Blonde, and Lisa, Mike, and Mike are going to perform for us. This is a song about humanity. It's called Sometimes. Sometimes in your life, you gotta do something you don't do all night long. Sometimes in your life,
gotta be someone you don't know all about. Tell me why things just don't seem right. Tell me why when you can't see through the light.
As long as it didn't get on her, I don't care.
Oh, it's okay.
It's pretty much over.
Day seems so long. Oh yeah, close your eyes. Find a place in your mind. Place where you can go. Tell me your life. Things just don't seem right. Tell me your life. When you can't see through the light. Tell me your life. When you need to know. Tell me your life. You need to know. You'll be alright. Yeah, you'll be alright. Yeah, you'll be alright. Yeah, you'll be alright.
You know, for those of you that are left, thank you. Thank you for helping us celebrate 100 people in our 10 years. We have our own little version of a groundbreaking today. It's cold. We're using a little bit of snow and a little bit of dirt. But please welcome our friends and watch as we begin our new journey.